welcome, guys. This is Marley and Mrs. P's podcast. This is Jay Marley. Today we have some interesting topics between dating and different viewpoints from the different generations of different experiences and what they've gone through with their different viewpoints of dating and how they've handled it.
All right, guys, welcome back. I'm Mrs. P, and it is going to be an interesting topic today. I'm kind of excited about it. I'm putting Marley under fire here and trying to get his perspective and another perspective with the guest speaker that we have related to dating and the differences for different age groups. So, Marley, let me start with you and just kind of have you talk a little bit about like your background experience with dating, and then we will introduce you guys to Richie and have him do the same.
All right, well, my experiences with dating, I've dated people from younger than me, older than me, by quite a few years as well, different generations as well. So they've had completely different mindsets and different viewpoints on dating and relationships and everything. So I would say I've got a pretty good broad viewpoint of dating, and I've gotten a different variety of people. And I feel like I've definitely gone through some experiences different than most people my age and my generation, being from the millennial generation. I definitely think I have more to go, more to learn, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. But yeah, I think so far where I'm at in my life, I've definitely had some different experiences compared to most people, and I'm looking forward to what happens in the future. But as our guest on the show, we have Richie
Mrs. P and Marley P stated, I'm from a different generation. I'm the elder in the room. I am from the baby boomer generation. And I'm also from a different culture. So I'm from a Caribbean culture, which living in the States, I realized in the Caribbean we dated much earlier than most Americans. It's been interesting. I too have dated different cultures. I was lucky enough to have traveled a lot and date different cultures in my time. What I can see from my experience and what I'm seeing today from a younger generation, and Marley will speak about his generation more, but what I can say is that dating was different when I was in the dating world. The lady was the focus, and we try to win the lady over, whether it be asking for a dancing, not just grabbing on her hand, but ask her for a dance. Respect her until you have permission, and that could be a nonverbal cue or a verbal cue that you can even get a slow dance or a dance closer. So there's a lot more respect in a relationship. I feel men were men instead of, what I mean by that, men approach women. Sometimes we get rejected, but we still try. I can give many examples of a friend who I know, in particular one, that he would try for this girl, and everyone would say she's out of his league because he was from a poor social class. However, he still went back, and eventually, I can say, as soon as I know, was married to this young lady up to date. So what I can say, again, things have changed. Where in the past, in my time, men were the head of the family, meaning they work, provide the money, take care of the family. The female took care of the kids, make sure the home is clean and organized, and the kids are well taken care of. So the men somewhat were the leader of the family. And I'm careful how I say that, because really the woman led the home. But women made men feel like men, even though they knew they had the power. But they respected their men, and vice versa. The men respected the woman. Today, when I look at the younger generation and I go out, it's concerning. Often a lady may be walking by, and I see the younger guys grab the woman by her hand or come close to her and gyrating on her from behind, and often the woman accepts it. This is a different culture, so I think women have lost something. That self-pride, that lack of a better word, valuing himself. That not everybody can touch you. Not everybody can come up and rub against you, especially in a sexual manner. And also, I've seen that, as we all know, more women are going to college more than men. And I think that make a shift in the dating relationships where men are not used to or accustomed to or weren't prepared by their parents to handle women that are educated. Often women in the past, my generation, generations before me, women tolerate a lot because they had to depend on the man. So we're seeing a shift in the society where women now are more independent and in many cases feel like they don't need a man, which they do need a man, but they don't, it's not as important because they can take care of themselves or they don't have to tolerate inappropriate or abusive behavior. So men today have to step it up. And unfortunately, we're not seeing that because the boys aren't going to school, college, and the girls are getting more educated, making more money. And I feel like men are becoming more insecure, having a harder time to approach women, especially if the woman is more educated than they are. So I think there is a shift that needs to take place within that generation where they need to either be confident enough to handle a woman who's more educated, making more money. They have to learn to not go with the flow, as we say, but more unique and respectful of women and approach women in a respectful manner, not what are commonly done.
Okay, thank you for that. So going back to Marley real quick, how do you think like the younger generation approaches dating differently than like the older generation?
I think this generation definitely takes dating as for games, for sport almost. No one takes it serious, and I think that a lot of people just they want to see how many they can have or how far they can go with it instead of dating for a purpose, dating to find out if this person's a viable candidate or this person's a viable option to take serious, to be married to this person, have kids with, be the mother of your children. I think nowadays, people they see it as almost like a sport, like they're trying to have fun. They want to see what else they can do and see how much they can have, instead of saying, hey, this one's a good quality person, I should see where I can go with this person and see how far we can take it. I think also social media has definitely skewed the dating market in terms of what people see as realistic. Because before social media was a big thing, you'd have a girl in a small town, all she had to deal with was guys in her area, her geographical area. That was her only options really, and she could be a 10. But because she only was in a small town like Iowa or some area in Timbuktu where no one knows her, no one knows where that's at, she was only pretty much available to those guys. Now with social media, she has guys from all across the world, guys from Dubai, guys from Miami, New York, LA hitting her up, probably trying to fly her out, doing whatever. So it's given women a lot of the power. It's opened up their options to an international market, and it's made it extremely hard for the average guy out there to be visible or to be a viable candidate to those women. Because say if a woman deals with a multi-millionaire guy or a guy that's flown her out or whatever, she's not going to go back to the average Joe, the 9-to-5 worker, the blue-collar guy. She's not going to go back to that because she thinks because I've dealt with this guy, now this is what I deserve, or this is what I'm supposed to have or only have. And it's kind of like a lot of people, in terms of that, they have an inflated ego, and they think that because I've dealt with this in the past, I shouldn't be dealing with these guys over here. And it's kind of like that's not always the case. Some people, yes, I think they should be doing that, but other people like that, it's not always the case. Maybe this is what you deserve, or this is the realm that the region that you're in was with average guys, but because you've dealt with this high profile, this high status guy in the past, you think that because I've dealt with that, this is what I deserve, or this is what I should only mess with. So I think that social media has definitely changed the dating market a lot, and I definitely think that because of what Richie P said with the tides turning, women going to school more than men, they're earning more money, and a lot of big cities in the U.S. like L.A., Miami, New York, a lot of the big cities, women on average are making more than the men. Some people don't know that, but it's definitely starting to change. The tide is definitely starting to change in terms of who has power and who has control in the relationship. So I think he's right. I think what he said, it's definitely putting men in an awkward position because men have to step up. And if they don't step up, then yeah, you're going to have women out here masculine and running the relationships.
Okay, so Mr. P, then from your experiences, what have you learned in relation to how relationships and dating has changed over the years?
What I would say, my dad always say this, people ask for long life, and that I don't realize long life mean getting old. I think the younger generation often don't think they will age. And my fear with the younger generation, they're going to realize it when it's too late. As Marley P. stated earlier, women in his generation used to take it as a game or fun, how many people they can sleep with. In the past, women try not to limit the amount of men they slept with. Limited. They didn't sleep around as much, or if they did, they would hide it. It wouldn't be public because a lady was supposed to behave much more nicer, more gentle, more kinder than a man. Today, what I'm seeing, women are just racking it up like men. They want to live like men. And recently, someone asked me, why you think in society it was okay for men to date more than one woman, and it's not the same way. It's not fair because women, when they date more than one man, we frowned upon it or they're judged. And I didn't have a good answer for what it is. More than what I can say is, if you date more than one man and sleep with more than one man unprotectedly and you have a child, it'd be almost impossible to know what the child is. You could say you can do DNA, and even that, so most men will have doubts with that, especially in non-developed nations, where the DNA says you're the father. So it's put a woman in a more limited spot, I think. Not that I'm saying it's right for men to have more women, but it's limited to women because of the complication that comes from it. Whereas a man sleeping with a different woman, if it's the same man sleeping with a different woman, as long as the same man, you know he's the dad, and it's pretty covered. But what I think is men have to step it up, and men have to learn to be men again. That doesn't mean a woman shouldn't be a woman or a lady, or aspire to be the best they can be. But the relationship as far as the men with the women respect the men, and I think that's what we're having, is a lack of respect for men nowadays. Because of how, not because women are wrong, but often is how the men carry themselves and conduct themselves. I can tell you in my generation, there's no way a young lady from a middle class or upper middle class family, and I'm going to say even a poor family, that is ambitious and raise their kid, that even though you're poor, you don't have to look like the ghetto. Take care of yourself. Most of those women I know that child would never have dated a man with his pants below his buttocks. It would be seen as wrong. Family would condemn it, and that child could not bring that man home. We have lost something when we look at our parents nowadays with the young generation, where they date anybody. The man is not going out in the airport, his pants below his bottom. The woman's still there with him. She's dressed nice, but she accepts this man to set dress down. So again, I don't know how to, what you do with that. But again, in my generation of dating, that wouldn't be a man that a woman in my time would have dated if they dressed that way. We had to be dressed neat, smell good. If you're poor or rich, still be clean and smell good. Your attire is appropriate. So there are so many things I can say is different, and I would even say wrong. With the new generation now, they accept things, lower their standard. Most parents in my age group, we all sit and talk about how disappointed our kids are nowadays. And we worry about the kids more. And again, you may say every generation the parents worry. It's a different worry. Because we don't have standards anymore. And if you don't have standards for yourself, people are going to treat you the way they think you should be treated because of how you carry yourself, or the way they are raised. Or their mother get abused by the father and accepted, they become alcoholic. Those kind of things will change, and I would be sorry for the kids that come from that, from those parents. I don't know the answer, but again, I'm going to emphasize, I do think the man has to step it up by educating themselves, learning how to treat a lady the way they treat their mother, and hopefully they treat their mother well. But I think often the relationship you have with your mother is how you're going to treat a lady, or the relationship you see your father and your mother has would sometimes, in most cases, dictate how you would interact with a female. So my generation have failed some way too, where the kids are doing the things they do, and they came from our home or our generation. There's a lot of subject to cover, and maybe I'm going ahead of the interview or the discussion. So in other words, I really don't know what can be done. I know in my generation it was easier. Because if you're a bright kid in school or ambitious, you're more likely to date. If you're good looking and bright and ambitious, you're more likely to date. If you're good looking and athletic, you'll be more likely to date. Because the potential for you to be successful was assumed. And ladies are normally raised to what? To have a safe and comfortable home, protecting your kids. So they tend to be admire boys who are doing well. They're ambitious, have ambition, I should say, and have potential. Nowadays, that's not what you see.
Okay, so I know that, so I've read there is a growing population of women, particularly from like the millennial generation, who they want the whole, equal feminist rights related to like male and female and how male and female are viewed. There's a growing population of women in the younger generation who, to be quite honest, are not planning for children. They are not traditional in the sense of wanting, the marriage, the kids, the white picket fence, and that, that type of dream, which from the previous, 2 generations back was what women, wanted. Do you guys think that that has like a profound effect on what's going on nowadays with the dating scene related to the younger generation specifically?
With you talking about like feminism?
Yes.
Um,
And as far as our views, because if you think about it, so both of you guys spoke to the fact of, yes, men do have to step up, and I get that. But you're right, like women also, they're going to school more in more numbers than men, right? They're coming out into the workforce in more numbers. There's less men and less viable men out there for these type of women who are in their masculine energy to be dating. So as far as that goes, I know it contributes greatly to the different generational views of what dating looks like, and ultimately how it's going to affect the future of dating, especially if there's not enough men out there for the women. They think that they're above, what they received previous generation from Richie P's generation and from my generation as well, because I'm more of a traditionalist. How would you guys advise men out there, whether they are from the baby boomer generation or they are from the millennial generation, to be able to offset that and date successfully if there is such a thing?
Recently I was talking to my dad about equality, and he said even in heaven they're ranking among the angels.
there's always a hierarchy.
There's always going to be a hierarchy. So equality, depending on what you define equality, I think you can have an equal relationship. A woman or a lady does 60% in one area, the husband does 40. There's certain areas where the husband does 60% and the wife does 40. You're equal. So equality depends on what you call equal. I would say an insecure man should never date a confident woman. An insecure man will define it often at the woman because she attains stuff. She acts like she's a man. And I'm saying everybody who does that, I'm saying in general. Mm-hmm. But it's not because, often it's not the woman acting like she's a man. The woman has attained a lot and going to dictate certain things how she's going to be treated. Where in the past, where us men could get away with stuff because the woman had to tolerate us. They don't have to anymore. So I would say pick wisely. If you're not confident, it's just we could go the same thing. An insecure man should never date a beautiful woman. The relationship will not last. Another man say hi to her, have a conversation at work, he gets mad and jealous. It's the same thing. It has to be confidence. So it's hard for me to say, because equality, I think, is a fair thing to say. No difference than blacks are saying we want to be equal to white, right? And we've been saying that for a long time. We still have not attained that because there's, in certain view, white person may say, yes, we are equal. I've heard people say everything is equal. I'm not sure why blacks complain. But we know that's not true if you're black. The point is equality is how you defined it.
Perspective.
It's perspective.
Yeah, equality is definitely different to each person. Each person has their own version of equality or their own viewpoint of equality. I think in terms of what you asked, in terms of feminism and how it's being handled today, I think that my generation specifically, they see feminism as they want equal, if not the same or more rights than what men have, in terms of they want to be treated like the lady, but they want to act and behave like a man. And that's where I have the problem. I think that it's okay to, if you want to go out and do these things and act like a man, have masculine traits. I have no problem with that. But you can't have it both ways. You can't have it. You act a certain way and then want to be treated another way. When it's like, if you're gonna act that way, you gotta take what comes with it. So for me, I think with the feminism thing right now, they're really pushing a lot of it. With what I'm hearing and people around my age group, they're telling a lot of people are telling women to push off a family, and they're telling them to get their career in order, make money, and then get the family after. And a lot of people don't realize. From what I learned in biology in school, women are on a clock in terms of that. They have a certain amount of eggs. When you get to a certain age, it's gonna be less likely for you to have a healthy pregnancy, to have less health issues or whatever issues with the pregnancy, what can go wrong with the child as well. So I think it's good to have your stuff in order, have your career. That's very important. But in terms for a woman, I mean, I can't speak because I'm not a woman. I can't speak and say what they should do. Everybody can live their own life. But I think that the best case scenario to do is to cash in your chips early, because you get your value up front. When you're younger, 18 and 24, you're seen as very, very attractive. A lot of people, even older, younger, are chasing after you. I think it's best for you to cash in then, because at that point, say you have a man that's a little bit older or whatever the case scenario may be, he's able to help you out. You're able to go to school then once you've already established that relationship and you have that family. I mean, at that point, you can do what you want to do. But I think for women, it's a different focus, because for men, I think men get more enjoyment out of a career and out of making money compared to women. I think women get enjoyment out of people and out of social things, social events, social gatherings. So, I mean, you don't want to be the woman that's alone, 6 years old and alone with no family, no kids, no nothing, and you have your 6 cats. I don't think anyone wants that. I think for women, it's very important to definitely get your family in order and get your stuff in order in terms of that, and set up for the future. Because even if you're working, you're doing all this stuff, you have your career, what are you doing it for? You're doing it for yourself alone? I mean, if you have the money and you have everything, you're successful, that's cool. I mean, congratulations. But if you're in a big house alone, what was the point? That's how I see it. If you have no one to share with, or you have no one to pass it on to, I mean, you're doing it for no reason. Once you pass on, or once you go, your legacy is gone, because all you worked for was just yourself. You didn't pass it on to your knowledge or your guidance or whatever you've learned in this life to someone else.
I don't think that that's specific to sex, though. I think that's I mean, to generations. Like, I think both men and women want to be able to, you know what I mean? Leave something.
Yeah.
Like a lineage, you know, to be able to say, I made a mark. I did something that improved someone somehow, whether it's one person, whether it's, you know, whatever it is. And I think that everybody desires to be able to do that.
But what I'm saying is, I agree with that. What I'm saying is, I think for women, the best way a woman can do that in this world is to start a family and to leave a lineage. For a man, the best thing to do is create a name for himself.
Yes,
you get what I'm saying? And leave a legacy in terms of that.
Your generation of females have a different point of view.
Yeah.
So the things
they want to
that
do
I'm
the things
seeing,
that men want to do. They want the careers, the CEOs,
Yes.
the boss babes is what they're calling them.
the things I'm seeing on social media, in particular to like the way that they view the feminism movement, because feminism was started
In the 70s, right?
but yes, and it was because like women had to go out and work because men were at war, and they wanted equal pay, and to be able to, you know, obtain jobs that they felt were on the same level, not necessarily the same job. They weren't trying to be like construction workers, but at least on the same level. In relation to like what their skills and their talents were, not be overlooked when the men came back from war, and now all of a sudden they have to be put on the back burner. So that's how it started. The way that I have seen on social media and like the podcasts and the things that we watch, how women use feminism is completely different. It's no longer about equal pay and being treated fairly at work. It's more about women want to be in the masculine. They want to be able to hold the title of CEO, which is amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. But as a traditional female, you can hold the title of CEO, but you have to leave that at the door when you come home to your family and your husband, unless that's not a goal.
I mean, I agree that's hard to do, though, if that's your nature. Because think about it, in order to be a CEO and in order to be a boss, it's a lot of masculine traits: ambitious, charismatic, stand up for yourself. You know what I mean? You're able to not be agreeable. Basically, like you're gonna have to argue in order to get what you want. You're gonna have to argue for more pay, argue for whatever you need. I think a lot of the traits and characteristics of being that CEO or being that boss is very masculine traits traditionally. I mean, I'm not saying that a woman can't do it. A woman can do it. It's nothing wrong with it. It's definitely okay, and you're seeing more and more of that nowadays. I just think that whenever a woman does steps into that role, it kind of she makes herself more masculine, and society does it as well because she's out there every day with rubbing elbows with the other CEO and bosses, which most of them are men in those positions. So she's gonna naturally take on those roles and learn from those people because to make money, I mean, especially money on that scale, you have to be a very outgoing, very strong personality type.
And Richie, please feel free to jump in at any point here. And I think that the why it's so complicated and difficult to be able to do that is a generational thing. I think it has a lot to do with a generational thing too, because these videos and these podcasts that I'm watching where these females are like, oh, I'm a boss B, and oh, I'm this, and I don't need a man, and I don't need this, and I'm independent. And then 5 years later, when you see them with a child and they are taking back what they said because they realize to be a mother is exactly what you were created for, and you can't think that way because a child needs a mother and a father. It has to have both the female and the male perspective to be a well-rounded child. And these women out here who are raising these children and raising men as single women, I think that once they have the child is when they realize that, oh, I need to take back some of the things that I've said. I've seen it in some of the podcasts that we watch where they come back and they're like, I was wrong. I was wrong to be that way. I think it takes a very self-disciplined person, someone to be able to go out and have a high demanding job as a woman and go out and, and help to bring, 2 incomes into the household and still be able to leave that at the door and to take a phrase from Richie and make a man still feel like a man when she comes home. I think generationally, your generation has difficulty with that.
I think some of it is generation. And I think in each generation we could see where I think they could express where they have known someone who that did not work. Because a lot of it is the confidence of the man and what you bring to the table. You could bring different things to the table what your wife sees as equal value. Though she's making more money, you're bringing something that equal that. So she values you. She may come home and the house is spotless. A wonderful meal is put out. A glass of wine is there on a Friday. You provide, make sure it makes you appreciate her. But I think I'm going to try to put myself in that woman's shoe where she work against more obstacle than our man, because it's easier for a man and a woman to climb the corporate ladder. I think we can all agree on that. So she put all that effort, climbing a day with all kind of people who has no confidence in her being in charge because she's a female, putting her down, even though it's not true, but society does their thing. And then you come home to a man who's home sleeping, watching TV and drinking beer. So I think a lot of it comes again is to pick your partner carefully, because don't think it won't have an impact if the person is way more educated than you and provide everything. She cooks, clean, come home and do that. You, why have you if you're home? So sometimes I try to think in terms of that. It's men can't have a cake and eat it. We have to understand. I think Marley talk about family and starting your family, and we have to understand it's about family. You have to bring something to the table too. So I know there's some generation gap in dating. It's different. When I was growing up, we didn't have all this social media and people showing their assets all over the world. We had some curiosity. And we get excited if we saw a girl in a swimsuit. Nowadays, you laugh at people in a swimsuit, right? Because people are bolder than that now. All right? So there's no curiosity for a man. The woman come out there and says sex, sex, sex. Because she shows everything, I remember one time I went to a club. I never forget it, in Boston. And that's the time when the song was playing, Thong. Cisco.
Yes.
And I remember being in the club, maybe 2 hours, and I left. It was a little bit hard for me because people are out there, ladies are their panties over there above their pants. That was so uncomfortable for me. So I think again it comes from value. We have lost a lot, and I'm not sure.
We should see it now.
We have, yeah, and I think when a society is led by the uneducated, I think this is what we end up with. If you look, say, for Jamaica, rappers set the tone, so they wear the pants off their butt, they shoot fire, everything about gun and killing. When you have the less educated setting the standards for society, this is a danger that we're in now.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, please.
So let me say something, because in Caribbean culture, I can understand how that makes sense. In American culture, I don't understand how that makes sense.
Let me explain that to you then. I want to interrupt you now. Rappers set the tone here the same way.
Same, yeah.
If you look at the end this and they calling a woman the B word, think about all the disrespect or you call a woman. It comes to the point where it become almost a normal thing. Women
Very
greet women
true.
with the B word. Blacks greet each other with the N word and say it's cool. But at the same time, if a white person do it, we get angry. It don't make any sense.
Yes.
We make the less educated setting the standard.
Here's where I'm going to jump in and play devil's advocate. The other day I was watching television. These ad execs with these degrees who put on the commercials for everybody from age 2, 3, 4 up to 20 something, 60 something to watch are advertising a Hardee's commercial with a burger that a female model in a bikini is eating, and she drops barbecue sauce on her cleavage. So these are not uneducated people that are putting this out into the world. The world is led by men. Okay, the world is ruled by men. Men want sex. So to have the theory of, the little mystery, like when it was back, for the baby boomer generation, I understand. This generation now and again, women are running around half naked, undressed, and men are paying them for it, and men are putting them on a pedestal for it. The better you look, the more your BBL is nice and tight, the smaller you are as far as weight goes, the bigger your knockers are on the television with a burger which has nothing to do with a Hardee's burger, the more it sells, because men rule the world and they want sex.
That's the simps, though. And that's another thing, too. Simp culture is a big thing as well. Like, I feel like the feminism thing's big, but there's also another culture called the simp culture, which a lot of these men, is like what he was saying, that need to step up. They're giving all these women free validation and attention for not providing anything. They don't even know the girl, and they're leaving all these comments, sending them money. They're doing all these things, and they don't even know these women. They're basically giving women free validation and free attention for no reason. Back in the day, like what he was saying in his time, a guy could show up on a date, give roses, flowers. A woman go out and have to basically dress nice, act classy, and maybe you get lucky, a guy will approach you and take you out. Nowadays, guys are giving out free attention and free validation for nothing. So now most females, since they're 18, probably even before that, they're used to guys just complimenting them all the time, throwing themselves at them, making it easy for them. So they think every guy is like that. So I think that along with feminism is a problem, because feminism is going up simultaneously with simp culture going up, where a lot of these men don't know their own value and don't know that you can't be just throwing attention and value and money at these women for no reason. You don't even know her.
I want to interject with what you say, because I think you're supporting more than you think. What I've said, there's a shift in the value system. We have no value. We're being examples of how we should live is seen set by the poor who have made money and become rich. The poor and uneducated. I want to say poor and uneducated. Capitalism is always going to be there. So the man who put the burger out there, he knows that's what young people want, so he's going to put the burger to sell it. You can't blame that man. He's capitalizing on what the society is today. The tone has been set that if you want anything, put a sexy woman, because sex sells. That's a value issue. Where we don't think of the brain of the woman. Can she even count?
Men set the values, though.
Because, again, it's set by a less educated man who's looking for a pretty woman who can't count. A man who's educated is going to go from an intellectual standpoint of discussion and talk and find something so that you can have a discussion with a person after the sex is completed. A man who thinks he could never attain someone or get a woman that is so beautiful, he doesn't care if she can count, but she's pretty. So he goes out there with a pretty woman on his arm, and that's what he does. The man loses the money, the woman leaves. It's that's again something the value system of change, where the woman needs to value themselves and the men need to value themselves. If you don't value yourself, this is what's going to happen. You don't find the educate the scientists or someone who have you don't find the Bill Gates out there and the rich people who have made money from work and education or for any of these people going out and doing the things and calling them N-words. They publicly know how to behave publicly. Privately they may do it. I'm not saying they don't do things privately, but not public, because your image is important. I can tell you, you look in the States, and in my island, you go there, and you see people constantly in the middle of their hand, they're crushing, they publicly have to show that they smoke marijuana. In my generation, they did, but we didn't know who did it because they did it privately. We didn't have to. They didn't advertise it.
Now they advertise it.
Everything in is said here is uneducated who have they have nothing to lose, so they come out and publicly do that. If you're a nurse or a doctor in the States or educated among our Jamaica and you're not going to publicly go out and do that. That doesn't mean doctors and nurses don't smoke marijuana. There'll be a misunderstanding on that. But we behave differently publicly because of the consequences. Uneducated don't think of the consequences often.
So here's my question to you then, okay? Because again, now we're getting to the meat of what I actually want to be talking about in this discussion today. Here is my question then. If this is the way that the world is set up, okay, where these young feminist girls are putting their booty out there and OnlyFans and men are paying for it, right? If the uneducated, which are like, the rappers, and not all rappers, some rappers, right? And these ghetto people who are making money, who is responsible for changing this? Because women claim that girls run the world, but they don't. Girls outnumber men, but men make the rules, men make the values, men make the laws. Who is responsible for changing what this current society is going through, not just in terms of dating, but let's go deeper into marriage, the values of marriage, the values of family, the values of even broader abortion laws, men being behind prison, not being there for their children, right? Which changes the face of family. This whole society is supposed to be a Christian society, based and founded on, supposedly, okay? We haven't been Christian probably since the beginning of time. Men run the world, men make the rules, men set the expectation. Who is supposed to make the change?
Maybe it's been happening now. The women are changing it. You see, it said men make the rule, now the women are getting more educated. Let me tell you, the women are kinder and gentler in general. If you look back to even slavery, it's a lot of white women that helped free black men, not white men, right? Women in general always are nicer people than men, right? If you have more women leaders, we'll probably have less wars. I think we can all agree on that. Women has to get back there. Women have to bring in that value system and say how value I am. Especially beautiful women. And I'm going to be careful because beautiful is superficial. If a man really wants you, he will change for you. But if he gets you easily, he's not going to change. If you just go and sleep around and just sleep with people, the change is not going to come. It's kind of what we're saying. A woman of power, men scared of them. Because that woman said, no, you're not going to do that to me. Boundaries have been set. No, I don't have to worry if you leave me, I ain't going to have an apartment. I don't know where I'm going to live. I can pay for my own apartment. So they're coming, it's scaring men. Because men used to be able to do what they want to do, go out, stay late. Now a woman is saying, no, you're not going to do that. Because the woman did it, the man will get mad. Right?
True.
It's a shift of power. Let's shift a little bit to America. Why do you think racism is rising in America? It's fear of minority power. Even though we have limited power, but it frightens them. It's the same thing men going through. Women are getting more educated. Women are getting better jobs. And women is slowly raising the bar because as they climb, it's going to change. This generation is going through a tough time, but I think out of it, as long as a leader rise, a strong woman rise, I think it can change. But right now it's scary because women go online to date, number one. And if they know much about men, men are online to look for women to go to bed. Most men, I'm not going to say every man. I don't know if online dating is the right thing. Maybe it's a generation gap. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know the men I speak about when they want to look for somebody to go on the internet. So I think it goes as maybe it's an easy place to get women. So I think men are on the same, most men are on the internet to have build a relationship. We're on there to pick up a girl. And hopefully a pretty one. We don't care if she can count. Right? Because we're looking for a 1 night or 2 night, 3 night. Marley said it well. If they don't start planning for the future, again, if you live long enough, you will get old. Your beauty will change. Your breasts will probably drop down to your knee in some people, in some cases. It's not going to be the same. Where a man can date a young girl in their later years, it's not as easy for a woman to date a younger man in her later years. I'm not saying impossible, because that's not true, but not as easy for a man. So women have to set the bar to nowhere. Men have some easier thing for them because of society, whatever. Men run the place, as you see, and they set these eyes and they protected themselves. No different from when white men run the world and they protected their race. The same thing happened, right? Women now have to say, we're going to change that. I'm not going to date someone who doesn't finish high school, or unless that person I see have drive to finish high school and taking steps to do it. Because you can help somebody along the way as long as they're willing to do it. But don't settle and think it's not going to show up later. If you look, in my experience, and I'm going to speak of my experience, I'm not data out there support that. But I can tell you in most cases, from even being in the military, women that marry down, somebody in less position, where somebody is an officer who marry enlisted, normally it's a white woman, because they're used to the power of money. They're more likely marry to someone in less position. What I can honestly tell you as a black man, I've very seldom, if ever, I can even think of one case where I see a black officer married an enlisted soldier. I think of one case, a physician I work with, a black physician married an enlisted soldier, he was a sergeant. But most commonly it was a white woman who married someone down. So I think it's a use of power. Woman wants to be secure financially, good neighborhood, safe. Because a lot of minority have not climbed a ladder as the whites are accustomed to, I think a black woman don't want to give up that and marry down out of fear, out of family judging, right? Because family, you have a master's degree, marry somebody that, you know how my culture is anyway. I'm going to speak of every black, right?
Plus, they want somebody who's going to keep helping them
climb.
Bring them up and
right.
climb.
But when you're used to money, it makes you more likely to make the adjustment. America, that doesn't bother you. You have money. Your family have money. Could care less if the person is a carpenter or what. Yes. But when minorities, you see a big difference with marrying down. That's my experience. I'm not sure if you have the same experience.
I think that I have to agree with you on that because of the fact of it takes so much, especially a black woman. Mm-hmm. It takes so much more for a black woman to be able to climb that, that quote unquote corporate ladder. It takes way more education than her counterpart, which could be a white female, it could be a white male. It takes so much more education and experience, and she has to swallow so much more of her pride to be able to get to the point where she can call herself CEO or CFO or CNO or whatever C-suite level she decides to go to, that when it comes to choosing a mate, you want someone, and this is just like from what I've like read and seen and whatever, you want someone that's going to be at your level or higher to be able to help you continue to climb or maintain the level that you're at. I mean, when home is where you spend the majority of your time, the people that you are around, your circle, are going to influence you, your personality, who you become, and they're going to either, add to your energy or drain your energy. So black women, I suspect, do not tend to marry down because they don't want to be dragged down. They want to be able to maintain.
Yeah, they've been down long enough. Yeah.
Yeah, it took them long enough. You're right. It took them long enough to climb. They don't want to go back down that like that, especially for a man.
It's all perspective. I'm going to give you an example, and I'm not sure if it relates, but I remember one place I was working. I'd hired several minority staff, Filipinos, blacks, foreign blacks. And one of my black counterpart came to me one day and he said, Rich, be careful, man. They might try to get rid of you and hiring too much minorities. And I remember turning to him and say, but when I came here, they were all white staff. They didn't get rid of the white manager who did that. So why should I not be fair and hire the best candidates, whether they're white, black, or Chinese? I'm saying this to say this. Minorities react differently when we get power. I think all of us can think about this, have experience with that, because there's a different pressure on us. We're watched more. I did not change, and of course I continued to hire the person who was best for the job, or to whatever race they are. But I'm saying that just to say that women go through that. Minorities go through a lot more. Whites not enough to think about it. I've been in the place where it's completely white staff, but if you're a black manager with all black staff, people notice that more for some reason. So the world is just the way it is. And if it's a woman with all women, men would say something about it. But yet you'd have men have a job and hire all men, and it's okay. They don't see that it's wrong, or women may feel bad about it. So I think, again, it's depending on who's in the driving seat. It's an interesting topic. I don't know the answer. But
So I want to say one quick comment. I definitely think what's changing and what's causing the change is back in the day, probably when you were coming up, men could make $40,000 a year, be a plumber, and still get a woman or have women or whatever. Nowadays, I think what's changing is that women don't settle. That's since the beginning of time. Women always look to date up. They're wired that way. They want a man that's bigger, stronger, smarter, more competent, can lead you, makes more money, whatever. Women always look for a superior, and that's my belief. I think women always look for a counterpart that's better than them, that can either bring them to the next level or push them or help them work together, whatever the case would be, to get to where they want to be, where the common goal is. So I think what's changing and what's causing the change between men and women's relationship with what you're saying is that women are starting to get the power in terms of the sense that more women are going to school, more women are making more money than most men nowadays, and women don't date down. So what's going on is a lot of the women are going to a small minority of men. I think if in the U.S. if you make over $100K a year, you're in the top 5% of earners, and that's all earners. It just 6 figures, $100K. So think about it. If most women are making more money, they're more educated, they're not going to settle for a guy that's 40K, it's a plumber or whatever he may be, a garbage guy or whatever. And that's not to throw shade. We need those kind of people. We definitely, and those kind of people to make society run, to make things work together. But what I'm saying is more women are making more money and getting more education, and women typically do not date down in general. They don't date below their means. So I think what's going on is a lot of men need to, that's another thing, men need to step it up, because if they're making more money and men in general aren't stepping it up, then small minority of men are going to get a big majority of women.
And I think I think you're right with that. I think in my generation, stepping up didn't mean necessarily marry for more money.
Yeah.
Stepping up means marrying a better man, the best man in the neighborhood, the man who's going to be a good father, the man who's going to be a good example, a family name that is going to be respected. So good was different. What happened, your generation is greedy and gullible.
Material things,
My generation worked hard and worked for months or years to acquire what they had. Do any job, whether it be housekeeping, garbage, we would do it. And then climb a ladder based on it. Just recently, I was in a Caribbean island, and a young man looked at me and said, he's not going to do construction, he ain't going to do that dirty work. But he had no job.
Entitlement, though.
Right? And I looked at him and said, don't ask me for any money anymore. I give him exactly, because you have a job, but you wouldn't take it because it's dirty job, or you don't have an education, you don't have a job. But you want to take my money, and I would have done that job if I didn't have a better job now. So I think, again, it goes back to the value system. If you value money, think about this, and I said this earlier. Back in my little island, we have a class society. In America, you have a racism and classism. We have just classism for the most part. Racism is too tiny there, right? Now in Jamaica, a lot of women are getting killed by men. Do you know why? In the past, those women would not have dated those men. They were going nowhere. Your family more you talk to those kids growing up. But now that people have made a lot of money from drugs and all kind of different stuff that they're doing without education or even know-how, women are not going for the money, and they're getting into bad relationship because those men are not men they would normally date, but because they have money, they're dating them. So I think what's going to change is not focusing on money. Look at the potential of the human being.
And I think
And we're not there yet in your generation.
no, yeah, a lot of women I think of this generation they don't look as much of the potential. I mean, they look at it a little bit, but a lot of them they want the guy pre-assembled. Already.
Yes, yeah.
And so I think nowadays you're right. Being the average guy making 40, 50K a year, those days are gone because to me it's kind of like you're better off telling a woman when you meet her you're a scammer or a drug dealer because she's gonna think you have more money. If you tell her, oh, I'm a corporate guy, she's gonna think you're broke. That's exactly what they're gonna think. So I think the days of being average and being just a normal guy and going out there and getting a good woman, those days are done. I think especially if, and I'm not advocating this behavior, but especially if you want to go out there and be a quote unquote womanizer or a guy that wants to play the field a little bit. Those days of being an average guy and being able to do that, you can't do that. You have to be of value or of status or bring something to the table for women to look at you and say, oh, they can take you serious or whatever, or see you as a viable option. I think that's what's changed in terms of that, and I think you're right. I think a lot of women, in terms of their standards and morals, a lot of them don't have it nowadays because you're right. These good girls come from good families. They're dating the scammers, the trappers, the drug dealers. They're dating all the bad kind of guys just because they have money or because they can offer something to them. When it's kind of like in the long run, that guy's gonna put you in a more dangerous situation than the average guy. But women nowadays don't look at. They're kind of ignoring the average guy because I mean in the U.S. I think the average guy is what 5'9", 5'8", 150, 160 pounds, or earns 40 to 50K a year. Those women are looking at those guys. Every woman, if you ask them, especially in my generation, my age group, they want a guy that's over 6 feet tall, good looking, charming, can talk to them, smooth, makes 6 figures. Some of these girls want a guy that makes 500K a year. Like that's top 1% of earners in the U.S. 500K a year, like, crazy numbers like that. And
Can I jump in?
I'm going to share one thing before because I have to agree with him. But it's not generation, and more so in your generation. No,
Yeah,
I remember when I was in the service, I was in Germany and I worked with a lady. And please don't take this wrong. She was fat. She was a fat civilian nurse, corpulent.
Yeah.
And but she was a nice person. We worked together all the time. We'd talk, and she also she wanted to meet a man. So I asked her one night, which describe somebody you want to meet, so if I know anybody I could introduce to. And exactly what you said. She picked a 6'2" skinny man, blue, and all kind of stuff.
Inflated ego, that's what I'm saying.
And she wasn't anything close to that. So again, you got to be realistic and be real. And again, the superficials of the physical, because hear me.
But think about what's going on nowadays. We have plus size models. Like nowadays they have. All
But that's okay, you know.
But there's nothing wrong with it. What I'm saying is, women have all these terms to basically cover up their inadequacies as a woman, being out of shape, having attitude, masculine behavior is like, oh, they just can't handle you, girl. They say all this stuff to support women, but for men, if a man's broke, fat, and out of shape, they say, yo, you're broke, you're a loser, you're a brokey. They say that kind of stuff, and I'm like, yo.
This is where I'm jumping in because here's the thing.
But I'm just saying
you
it's
guys
true.
can throw shade on women.
I'm not throwing shade, but I'm just saying it's got to be fair. Y'all want equality, but there's not equality. It's a double standard.
Don't say y'all, because some women
I'm saying most
want
women.
a certain definition of equality. But let me say something to you once again.
All right.
The difference between your generation of the baby boomer and your generation of millennials, which has played a huge role in how women see themselves in dating and what expectations are as far as relationships and even stuff as far as the structure of the family, even things as if role definitions.
That's what I'm saying. They messed them up.
What's changed is social media.
Yeah.
Social media has changed it because Jane, who is in Timbuktu, Wichita, Kansas, can pull up a social media view and see a guy who makes 6 figures and be like, oh, I can get that.
Yeah.
She can pull up somebody.
That's what I'm saying. The ego, inflated sense of ego.
But social media perpetuates
that. Well, because that's what I'm saying. These women, they want these unrealistic guys, like what he's saying, guys that are over 6 foot plus 6 figures, and it's kind of like you're not even on that. Like, how can you ask for that? Just like if I was a guy that's at home, doesn't work out, fat, overweight, no money, and all this stuff, I can't sit there and say, oh, I want a Playboy model.
Because you know how they can ask for that, but you know how they can ask for that?
Because of social media,
because plain Jane is sitting
being
here
reached out by a guy in Dubai.
Being reached out by a guy in Dubai who makes millions, and he's telling her how gorgeous and beautiful she is, and she's 5'3" and 160 pounds.
I wanna correct you though, because I'm not dumping on women.
No,
I want to say I just say women need to raise the bar and value themselves more, because if they value themselves, a man can't get them that way. If a woman say, I want somebody with potential, someone who's going to school, someone who maybe not bright but going to technical school or start a business, because everybody's not going to be a college grad.
No.
So I'm not saying women are the fault. I'm saying they can fix it easier because straight men is always going to want a woman. That's what I'm. But let me add another thing. I've said to you, men have lost being a man. Men in nowadays generation, this word we didn't have the word flexing in my generation, right? Nobody flex. If your parents give you a sneakers, you wear sneakers. We call everything crepe, sneakers. We didn't have names like Jordan and here this. We didn't have all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so we didn't have to do that. You would never see a kid going to school and wear no here. Those things never happen. So you know which kid have money or not. I was lucky enough to say in my little island we all wear a uniform, so everybody look the same, rich or poor. Your character is what matter when you meet a girl. She may date you and find you live in the ghetto. You might live in Tivoli Garden. But she already fell for you, unlike because of your value system. Maybe you're bright in school. Maybe you're polite. Maybe whatever it is. But you didn't date based on material things. My parents had 2 cars. They let me drive to school. I didn't do that. I take the bus like everybody else. So we didn't have to flash to meet a girl. It was what we say in Jamaica, your lyrics, your confidence, that you win a girl. It wasn't what you had.
So let me ask you a question then, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were raised upper middle class, correct?
Yeah, I think you could say that.
You don't feel that helped you to be able to be more popular with the girls?
No. And I tell you why. I know many kids in my neighborhood, actually my dad used to get on me, why don't I have friends in my neighborhood? I didn't like how they behaved. They behaved younger than me. They behaved like the time in Jamaica. I'm not going to say what I would call them. But the point is,
what about girls?
I'm saying to you, no. The neighborhood I live had nothing to do because most girls that I dated didn't even know where I live until after we've been involved. And I thought they were nice enough to bring to my home.
Gotcha.
So I just didn't meet a girl and bring to my home. That just didn't happen. We're involved for a while and then bring them to the house.
Okay.
They didn't know. Did my neighborhood change maybe have an impact on me? Yes, because I grew up in the middle class. We're more polite. And we're more... I'm going to use a word that maybe not the right word to you, but I'm going to just make up. We're more of an hypocrite because our behaviors will keep it behind a closed door. We didn't show a negative behavior in public as a kid that would grow up in a poor, less educated family would do. We probably did some of the same things they did, but you could never tell that we did because it never came out to public.
Yeah,
so you grew up with a different value system.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying, how to conduct yourself is what I'm saying. The ladies have to raise the bar for themselves. Automatically for us.
A woman can raise the bar all she wants to. Women outnumber men right now. We are more educated.
Always did.
Even more so.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah,
We are more educated even more so than you
Yeah.
now. If we're already dealing with, to be able to meet a man and get a man and keep him only for yourself, at your level or higher is slim pickings. We're talking about 1 to 5% of men, right? Are what these women are looking for. So now you're telling this woman to set the bar to lose this 1% man when he can go easily to Instagram and pick up an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old who's on OnlyFans and showing her boobs and her butt for money, and who will easily be the female that can't count numbers for him and bend over backwards for him and allow him to have 5 or 6 women because, hey, I'm just getting a piece of a piece of the pie, which is all I care about, while the high value woman ends up single.
You're where I disagree
childless.
with you with that. It may take a longer time to find that man. But I tell you this, no, you have more time than you think is where you go. You see, you still can meet good men. You still can meet, I've heard men say you can't meet, a lot of men, we can't meet a good woman, everybody. That's not true. There are good women out there. It's not every female in Marley's generation behaved like the general public. You have those who keep their head down, study, and meet their boyfriend maybe at church.
smaller numbers.
right?
Yeah, it's majority though.
But it still exists. My point is.
Gotcha.
So I'm saying you can still do it. It's the quick fix of the generation. I want everything done right now.
Yeah.
Want it tomorrow. So I want to marry somebody with the money. We ain't gonna work for the money together. Let's
why-
marry somebody with the money.
that's
It's
why
a
I get what you're
different
saying with the
approach. Yeah.
Because with the flexing nowadays,
It's flexing, yeah.
For those kind of women, those quality women, the attractive women that everyone wants. Men nowadays have to show something in order to even get their foot in the door for you to like my character, my personality after. Because those women, they don't want you. If you have no social proof or no proof of anything, status, money, whatever, they're gonna look at you and say, "What do you have to offer?" And if you're not showing those characteristics, they're not even gonna give you a chance. They're gonna say no.
And that's why I'm coming back and said they want to raise the bar,
So they're
because
flexing.
if the men are flexing,
Yeah,
so they have lowered the bar and started the flexing thing. But a woman need to look. You're driving a BMW, you live in a rent, you live in your mom house or your father house, or you live in a 1-bedroom apartment and you have driving a BMW. Is that a good man?
No.
Where your investment is in your car instead of saying, I own 10 property and I drive a VW. There are certain things that one have to get deeper with a man, the superficial, and I'm glad Marla bring up this thing, because even when I was younger, as I said, generation has not changed much. The generation we think it is. Some things have gotten worse, some have gotten better. I remember when I was much younger in Marla's age group, and I would go to the club, for example, and you go into the club and you ask a girl for a dance, and she refused. I tried to talk to her, she refused. She played a cute thing. And I remember I used to watch something that happened at the night. When the club ends, the guys would jump in the car and drive around the club. When the girls would come out, "Hey, what you doing, baby?" And those girls would go in the car with the guys. I started driving around my car too. So I picked up more girls outside in my car than inside in a conversation.
Why is that?
You're showing value.
Because the girls are superficial. The girl, I think in general, women are superficial in general. And pardon me for a lady who's going to say I'm wrong. I don't believe I'm wrong with this. It's just take an extreme now,
Yeah.
right? Because it's what, show me what you got. You got a car?
Yeah.
Didn't matter if it's BMW then. That's the only difference. Because I had a Nova, and there's nothing to brag about.
Yeah.
But I had a car.
Yeah. It's better
Okay.
than most.
Right?
Yeah.
So let me defend the ladies real quick.
Go
right?
ahead.
Let me defend the ladies.
I think all girls are
Because-
gold diggers. Just some are better at hiding the shovel.
Hold on
No,
now.
I'm not mean in a negative way.
You don't
It's a good thing.
generalize,
No,
but
it's a
if
good
you
thing
use-
because
if
women
you
are
use-
looking for security.
If you use the gold digger in the derogatory term and you generalize
But
it, then you're going to offend a lot of these ladies
Okay,
out there.
well, I don't
That's
mean-
like saying all men are dogs. Or is that true?
No, I don't mean it like that. What I'm saying
It's
is
derogatory.
It's
That's
not
what I'm saying to
derogatory. It's
you.
not derogatory. It's just that
Gold digger is not pleasant.
men have a big physical attraction and men have a big sexual desire. That's natural. Men are
Women have
wired
big
that way.
sexual desire too,
Yes,
Like-
they do, and some way more than men.
I mean,
They just
we don't
hide
want
it better
to we don't
than
want
you
to get into that
guys.
because I have different views on cheating and
They-
stuff like that.
they
So I don't
just
want
hide
to.
it better than you
I'm just
guys.
no.
I think we're getting off track here.
Okay,
No, I'm
here's
just saying
something
the
to
difference-
put us back on
I think
track.
all women seek security, and I think when I say gold digger, I mean like they seek something of value that you can provide for them
Okay, so
in whatever way it is, money.
Yes, and I'm going to put us back on track with this example. Prime example, which actually reinforces both of what you guys are saying. Look at the animal kingdom. The female lioness is drawn to the alpha lion,
Yeah,
the leader of the pack.
The one who's
She
going
knows-
somewhere.
He's going somewhere. He's doing something. Women are naturally drawn to a man who is superior, that she can
Ambitious,
look
yeah.
up to, who is ambitious, because guess what? He can take care of me. He can take care of the children. I want tall kids, good-looking kids that are well-behaved, well-mannered, who are going to be fed and taken care of. And the person who can do that is the alpha male who makes good money and who's tall and good-looking. That's what they are wired to. We are
Yeah.
animals.
Yeah, no one.
And it's prime example in the animal kingdom.
Yeah, there's not a problem with that.
Yeah, the female lioness is going to marry and be with the alpha male. If the alpha male grows too old and a young alpha comes and takes over, guess what? That now becomes his female.
I know, but I'm saying that's not the problem. The problem is women are. I get what you're saying. Women are automatically wired to want a alpha male, a male
Yes.
that's tall, whatever the things may be. But the thing is, men have to change and develop themselves to become that.
And there lies the problem.
You're naturally not just going to come out and have. I mean, you're going to have some natural characteristics that can help you, of course. But in terms of like maybe finance or fitness or whatever, that's going to make you stand out. A lot of men aren't born like that. You have to work for that and earn that kind of stuff. I just think that a lot of these women nowadays, they want a guy that's pre-assembled, and they don't realize he took years to get to that point where he's making this money, where he's doing this, where he's built himself up, where he's big in the gym or whatever. And a lot of these women, they're like, well, he's going to take me how I am. And it's kind of like if he's had to work himself up, whether it's work his way up through a job or work his way out of fitness in the gym or work his way out in terms of networking, getting to know a better circle of people to make more money, whatever the case may be, it's kind of like if he has to improve, why wouldn't you have to self-improve either?
No, I agree with you. Women should have to self-improve. I think that if you want a certain level of man, you need to meet him at his level.
Yeah.
Just like I think that if I was at a certain level, I wouldn't want to go below my level. Like to Richie's statement below, I would want somebody at my level or higher because I want to maintain where I am.
Yeah, women are wired that way.
Younger generation, your generation really believes that as long as they have boobs and they have a butt, they can pull a 1% man, and that's enough.
And that's the
and
problem.
that's not enough.
No, that's the problem.
And it come back to something, isn't that what you attain? Can you keep it?
Yeah.
Let me say something in general.
they're
So
not
we can
keeping
sit and be unrealistic and say, well, I'm not going to get education. I'm going to marry this rich, educated man. I'm put educated in, okay? I'm rich and dumb.
Yes.
I say educated.
Yes.
How long do you think that educated man going to take a dumb wife to a meeting where his peers are there and she can't even pronounce her name right?
Well, let's look
The
at the
point I
divorce
am
rate.
saying, that's what I'm saying to you. So it's not, people have to be realistic. You need to know whatever you have in life, can you keep it? That's not taints if I lose it. How many people you know have gotten out of money next month, they're broke, right? They didn't make plan, they hang their hat where they can't reach.
Yes.
You have to know when somebody's realistic in your life, if it makes sense for this person to be in your life. If you meet a person through money, because you're bragging and flexing, you better always have money. Because that person is going to leave you once your money is done. That's why I think this generation is going wrong. They tend to want to speak about what they have and what they're not, what they don't have and going for money. And then the guys know that, so the guy borrows his friend BMW and drive and pick you up and impress you and then get you to bed and it's over. And you find it's not his BMW because you're superficial. The point, we have to pass that and date more before we jump into these type of thing, because if I know that's what it take and I wanted you, my intention is not pure, I'm going to get it what I have to get you. And then I may leave. That's why often women, I think, make mistake like they would say, I won't sleep with you too early. If my intention is not pure, I wait 2 years for you.
Wow, 2 years.
I wait as long as you want, because I'm gonna get you. The point I am saying to you, all those type of criteria, we have to pass those things, because if a man's intention is not good, his intention is not good, and he's gonna play you until he gets you. So you have to kind of know the person's character, see how they live, see if their word match their action. Those are the type of thing you have to watch. Take me out, wine and dine me, not to show off and take me.
That statement. Your actions match your words.
So with that, I don't know. This is a tricky topic, and we're not going to have a conversation unless I not offend some. Some people are going to offend it.
Some people
So,
will be offended.
but the point is, it's not meant for that.
It's
It's not meant for that.
You offended somebody.
We're having a discussion and dialogue and experience that each of us have had. This is not a scientific thing we're doing.
No.
It's to say this is what we have lived, what we have seen,
opinion.
and it's opinion.
Yeah, it's our
So
experience.
what I can say, I in summary of me is like, women need to raise the bar as more value. Men need to raise the bar too. Get educated. Protect the woman more. Wine and dime them more.
And this is gonna be a little bit controversial. What I'm gonna say, it's a complete different scenario versus a man sleeping with 100 women and a woman sleeping with 100 men. And women can say, I know feminists nowadays push the thing and say it's the same thing. It's not the same thing, because I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. If you're out here and you tell a man, you're a woman, you tell any man, your husband, or whoever your potential partner's gonna be, you slept with 100 guys, he's gonna look at you a little differently. That's all I'm gonna say.
You'd be a wife.
That's what I'm saying. So women and the feminists nowadays in my generation keep pushing that. They're saying, oh, it's the same for a woman to sleep with 100 men versus a man sleeping with 100 women. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing. I'm sorry. For a man to sleep with 100 women, he has to be of high value or some sort of status, or something's going on where he's doing something right in life. You know what I mean? For a woman, it's easy because women can literally just post a picture, go outside in sweatpants, and they're gonna have men shooting their shot at them. That's just even the average woman, a woman that's obese, that is not good looking.
I think we're going to need time for that topic, and that's probably a next week topic.
Maybe, yeah. I just think that
That's an intense
what
one.
you're saying is right. Women need to raise the bar, but not give it up so easy. You should know, if you go on 2 or 3 dates with a man and you're still questioning you should sleep with him, you should not sleep with him.
But
Because you should have put him through some tests. You should have tested his personality, his character type, to figure, is this person a viable option for me to sleep with them? Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you're going through your things and people try to say, oh, I just sleeping around or whatever, the whole point of sleeping around and dating someone is to get to know them and to see if they're a viable option. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having fun and all that stuff, but it's kind of like, when are you going to get to the point where you're taking people serious? Like, where am I going to settle down? And I think for women it's different because they need to find a partner sooner. They're on more of a clock in terms of biology because their eggs is less when they get older. They have less chance of having a healthy pregnancy. So I think for women, it's more of an urgency to find that partner than a man. A man is for men, we look for sex, and I think that's true. Men look for sex, women look for a relationship. And
Used to be.
It used to be, but I think the whole thing is women are the gatekeepers to sex. So if you're not gonna have sex with women, it's up to her to let you know or not. It's vice versa with a relationship. It's up for the man to say, "Yo, if I want to keep you and have a relationship with you or not." So I think that women and men, they have to raise their standards and raise the bar.
Yeah,
in terms of
but
what
everybody
they're
have to
putting
raise
out.
the bar. I don't think it's any. The burden is not just on the woman. I'm just saying the woman because maybe because I have more girls than boys that I feel like girls need to make sure they know that what men really are.
Value
And I
themselves,
think it's hard because even myself with girls, I'm more direct in my opinion of things. I don't sugarcoat to make it sound good because I was a male who did some of the things. So I try to prepare it. And everything is all of that. And it's not.
Roses,
It's not that way.
It's
So,
not.
because
Yeah.
boys' intention are boys' intention. So I think that's a subject we
That's
should
what I mean when I say
discuss
that.
another
How men
time.
chase
Yeah,
sex
yeah.
and women
It's
chase
different.
relationships.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
different. That's the lead up to
We have
next
different
week's topic.
intentions in the sexual market.
But women now are becoming, where in your generation,
chasing
women now are chasing sex
sex,
versus
yeah.
And
relationships.
here's the
So.
thing,
true.
and
They're
this
more
is gonna
masculine.
be
Yeah.
this is
They get
gonna
more
be
masculine.
controversial because as a female, this is gonna be controversial what I'm saying, and this is probably gonna have to lead you right to next week's topic. But here's the thing, because when I think about like my generation, I'm in between both of you, right? Like as far as generation wise. And when I think about dating a man who has had 50, 60, 70, 80, 20 partners, right? And he's he's in his 20s, even in his 30s. To me, that seems like a high number. It makes, like, as a female, I'm like, oh, that's gross. So as a female, when you have slept with that many men and you're 20 something years old or you're 30 something years old and you think it's gross for a man to have done that, why do you think it's not gross for you to do that?
It is gross, but what I'm saying is a mistake. You understand now?
Well, there's a difference.
Your generation and my generation talk too much. It doesn't mean people in my generation, the women didn't sleep around. I'm not gonna go ahead and say that. We don't know what's happening in a bedroom.
That's true, but they
It doesn't
did
mean
it.
people in my parents' generation didn't sleep around too, right? But there is no way a woman in that generation come and tell you I slept with that many. They're going to deny it. So I'm saying the difference
This
is.
generation.
Again, how you come out, how the society view you, your community view is important during my time, so we wouldn't say it. Doesn't mean we didn't do it. I would never say women didn't do it in my generation. They didn't have phones to get caught on the social media and your wife pull up a thing, or she can call you every 5 minutes and you can tell upon your phone where you're located at. We didn't have that. So what men and women do when a man is gone to work and a woman is home, we don't know what they did. So I'm not going to go in there and say they didn't do it. They're just not going to say it, right? The difference is that we have no class now. That if we do this, we're going to go out and publicly do. We're going to smoke drugs in public. We're going to have sex and put it on TV. We're going to even in high schools where women are sending naked picture of themselves to boys.
Yeah.
These things we didn't have.
That's middle school.
Right? So the point I am saying, so it become a very sex society.
Yes.
And then think about it. A lot of men would never marry that girl like Marley is saying that I slept with other people. Or if your parents would put you up on social media and say all the stuff you do, they're going to have a conversation with his son. I don't want that woman in our family.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that they're doing to make everything public. Where in my generation we wouldn't have made it public. But by no means I'm saying women in my generation behave different from here. I don't know that. We have nothing. I can't prove that.
They're bragging about it now.
Right? Because of course men in my generation or in my father's generation, a lot of kids and many different women. So we know the men for sure sleep around. That we know.
Yeah.
But we also seeing studies coming out even out of now with when you sponsor kids to come to the States, if you're a parent you have to do a DNA. And we're seeing that even in my island of Jamaica. A lot of them kids were calling daddy, wasn't the daddy. So women were doing it. Again, it wasn't public. The man thinks it's his kids until he filed for them to come to the United States or wherever and then find it's not his kid. So
Lot of
people were
babies.
doing what they're doing, it just wasn't publicly. Give you an example, and I have to conclude here, but it's just like me. I used to tell people there's no gay people in Jamaica. When I left Jamaica, we didn't have gay. And I swear to you, there's not one kid I went to school with that turned out gay that I know of. Went to school with. I know you go to Jamaica, there's a lot of gays. So I mean, people were gay all along and I didn't know.
Yes.
They didn't publicly come out and do it. Once the pressure is put on Jamaica, now you see them coming out. Right? Because the standard of America is now Jamaican standard, I guess, right?
Yes.
And I'm not wrong against it or right. I'm not giving
No,
an opinion
yes,
on it.
yes.
I'm just saying, no, you're seeing it. But obviously it was there all along and I didn't know that. Things are more private.
So to conclude then, Richie P, any additions?
I would say it's a complex world. And if we knew the answer, we'd have peace in the world and everybody be happily married or happily in love and relationship. There's no silver bullet. But what I can say, hard work pays off. Things that come easily normally goes easily. So if you get your man too easy, you're going to lose him just as easily. If you get a woman too easy, you're going to lose her just as easily. Things should take work. Whether it be worked, go to school, commit. And going to school show commitment and completing something. If you find a man, everything they start and drop and stop.
Well
You might, or a woman, you need to realize that's not probably a good person because they don't complete anything. You need to sit as human beings, man or woman, to value yourself. Do I have enough value? Put enough value on myself. What kind of man do I want? What kind of example I want to set in my community for my kids and my family? People need to go out and wear their name. When I was growing up, I had to behave according to my family name because if neighbors saw me doing stuff, I would get spanked if it was not in order. I wouldn't publicly do anything for any neighbor to see me. They would tell you. This generation, if a teacher spank a kid here, the parents go to school and want to beat them up or even shoot them now.
Or sue them.
Or sue them. It's different. So a lot of what we have done, say it's going to make it better because we're getting this westernized culture, have actually made it worse. Right? We stopped spanking in Jamaica because it's brutality. As I say, we abusing the kids when we're getting spanked. They say that. But our crime rate is, I ain't going to say quadruple. It's way out there than when I was a kid. We didn't have all this killing.
Yes.
But we got spanked. So for me, my example of it is sometimes the discipline of a kid is not there. The parents of the kids run the home. And the kids are acting as adults before they're actually adults. They don't know enough. Parents don't prepare them, and often too, another thing too, parents tend to not be honest with their kids about sex and educate them. So the kids make decisions based on the environment they are.
What I definitely will say, I'm gonna give advice for I guess the guys.
Yeah.
I am a guy, and I'll give a guy's perspective. I definitely think it's getting harder and harder every day now in terms of relationships, in terms of family. In America, the family is a dying breed, really. Having a solid atomic family is what they call it, right? The atomic family, is what they used to call it. That right there, the white picket fence and all that, it's really the American dream is so-called. It's very hard to reach nowadays. I think it's a very hard thing to obtain, and I definitely think it's getting even more hard. We have preference. That's what you can do. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters at the end of the day. But I think that some of the things that are being pushed nowadays in terms of how to handle relationships and how the woman's role should be and how the man's role should be is definitely, they're making it more gray area instead of black and white, which has always been a black and white thing. The man is the provider, protector, all these things. The woman is the household name and
The nurturer.
The nurturer, yes,
Yeah.
exactly, and all these things. So I think that in a world of confusion and in a world of how everything's being mixed up and everything's backwards, people's morals are backwards, their standards are backwards. What people look at as important nowadays is backwards. They look at your money and what you bring to the table instead of looking how can this person take care of me? How can this person help me? Instead of thinking what can I get off this person? I think we're in a world where I think people are very superficial. So I think that for anyone out there that's not as superficial and not into the material things, I think it's a lot harder for those kind of people that are genuine. It's definitely a lot harder for you to find another genuine person. So I think just like anything in life, if you want to have a rocking body or if you want to have money, I think the main thing is to be consistent and just stay true to yourself and to stay who you are. You know what I mean? Never go outside within your means or go outside of your morals for someone else. And even if the person is attractive or even if the person checks other boxes for you, you still, especially if you want to take this person as a viable partner or a viable option, you still need to make sure they check every box for you before you give yourself up for them.
Yeah, well said.
So I think nowadays it's definitely more of a challenge. I mean, shoot, I'm a younger guy. I'm still up and coming, and I'm still trying to get my name where I want to be. And it's definitely a hard thing. I definitely think that you just got to be more cautious nowadays, and you definitely got to be more with your eyes open. You got to check people. You got to check them out. You got to figure out what they're about, what their intentions are, what do they want, where are they going, what do they want from you, what is their purpose in your life? Are they there for a reason? Are they there for a season? Or are they there for a good time? That's what you got to look out for. And I think that people nowadays,
For a lifetime.
exactly, meant for a lifetime. I think that people nowadays, they mistake people's identities, or they mistake the person, put them in a different category, a different box. And I think it's just nowadays you have to be more cautious with people. You got to really look out for the snakes in the grass. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people there that are leeches. That are there to try to take you down. And not everyone out there has good intentions for you. You know what I mean? So I think nowadays you just got to be more aware and keep your head up. You know what I mean? Keep your heads up and keep your eyes open. And definitely look out and definitely prepare and speak for what you want. If you want this kind of person, you want that kind of person, prepare for that. If you want a person that's good looking, whatever, you need to be good looking too. You need to be getting yourself ready for that. Prepare for that.
Exactly.
Those that are ready for blessings receive blessings. Those are not ready are not going to receive anything. You're not ready for it.
Yeah.
So that's how I tell people out there. That's my advice. I think that it's just nowadays, it's with social media and with how society, especially in the Western hemisphere of the world, being in America and UK, Canada, and all these places, the government, I ain't even the government, I'm not going to blame that. I just think with people nowadays and how things have been pushed and how agendas have been people are being brought down and people are being canceled and all these things.
Yes.
I think that we're in a world where you can't really. They say it's free. It's not really free. You can't say what you want and say what you feel and be who you are because
Nothing is free.
yeah, they're gonna try to cancel you. They're gonna try to bash you. And I just think that if you stay true to yourself, and if you stay consistent and stay on your path, nothing's gonna be able to stop you, and you're gonna get what you want at the end of the day. So that's
Well
how
said.
I feel about it.
Well said. Well, guys, thank you, Marley, and thank you, Richie, for sharing your thoughts and experiences on dating and, of course, like the generational differences. Thanks, listeners, for allowing us to share our thoughts. We hope this discussion has brought some thought-provoking and, informative, and was informative for you guys, the listeners. Please tune in next time to Marley and Mrs. P, where we'll have more discussions on topics that are related to personal growth, to self-improvement, and we'll try not to piss you off so much next time. Y'all have a good night.